Hello, my name is Garrett Cornett, and I'm the Executive Director at the Michael Simonson Foundation. Today I'm interviewing Jim Kemmerer, who worked for 35 years in the public school systems, both as a teacher and an educator administrator. We'll be talking today about his time as the Executive Director at the Hunter School in Rumney, New Hampshire, which was an alternative school for children diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, or Asperger's. At the Hunter School, Michael was able to implement his energy program, and Jim witnessed the powerful impacts and benefits of the energy program and Michael's work with the students there. Some students were even able to get off of medication, where they learned to get in their center, focus, and increase their abilities to learn. To begin with, Jim, I'd like to, if you could give me a brief summary of your professional history and
Mhm,
what led to you working professionally with Michael at the Hunter School.
mhm. Um, yeah, I go back. I graduated. As a matter of fact, I just met some of our new interns for the restorative justice program here, and I'm looking at them. They're college juniors or seniors, and they're doing their internship. And I thought, holy smokes! I remember my college days so vividly, but that was 45 years ago that I graduated from college. It's like, holy smokes, I'm getting old. But be that as it may, I spent 35 years in public school, both as a teacher and as a administrator. I retired in 2009 as a middle school principal. Um, and after that, spent a year and a half in retirement. And then an opening arose at the Hunter School, which was again a school for kids who were diagnosed with Asperger's, ADD, ADHD. Most of them had maladaptive behaviors associated with those codings, and it didn't do well in public schools. And it was a residential program, although we did have a few day students at the school. But it was mostly to address those kids' educational needs. And they were looking for a principal at the time, so I put my hat in the ring and I got that. And they were having some other problems with personnel. Within 24 hours, I was the executive director. And lo and behold, almost everybody on the staff disappeared at that point in time, with kids just right around the corner ready to enter. Luckily, the associate, the dean of admissions at that time, was also kind of working in the wings on a voluntary basis just to keep the program afloat. And she and I kind of collectively put our heads together and kept the program afloat for the next 5 years. And it was through her specifically that I met Michael. She had worked with Michael because she had a youngster who had similar difficulties, both behaviorally, emotionally, academically, and you name it, and had tried just about everything under the sun. And I forget exactly how someone had mentioned, I think Michael, this guy in British Columbia who was doing some great work with kids with these issues. And he had previously had come down to the school and did some workshops on kind of a limited basis prior to me arriving there, but kind of was met with kind of maybe a cool, to say the least, maybe a cool reception from the administration. I came on board. I loved the idea of what he could possibly do, and I was also looking at my associate for what she had said were some really huge improvements in her son's behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and taking ownership. And so that's how I got to know Michael. I mean, he started, I want to say in January. I can't even give you the exact year, probably 2011 or 12. Um, but he started working with the kids, doing workshops with teachers, started doing group things. But most importantly, I think he worked the best with individual kids. I saw amazing, like I said, having been in public education, I saw every discipline program under the sun come and go with limited success for the long term. I saw Michael, in some cases, just within half an hour working with a kid. The kid got it and made tremendous improvements in that kid for the rest of their life. And working with energies.
If you could talk a little bit about what Michael brings to the table, because Michael has a specific energy program that he implements to help kids get in their focus, to be in control of their thoughts, their energies, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So could you talk a little bit about witnessing that program at work, what it was and how it impacted the kids?
Yeah, I think and again, I enjoyed it because I think Michael looked at the whole package in terms of not just addressing the needs with the kids, but also realizing that oftentimes parents are feeding into some of the negative behaviors unbeknownst to the parent. And if they don't understand the whole concept of the energy program, they don't necessarily understand how they can negatively impact their child's growth. So he worked both with parents and he worked individually with kids. And when I say work with him, it was mostly the energy he brought to the conference with that youngster and explain the specifics of the program and how their energies were their choice. And, you could choose to embrace the negative thoughts and the negative ideas, or you could turn those around into more positive and loving ideas and find your life in a whole lot better place. And they said that's what the kids would get. They would get his message. And plus, when they would have a meltdown or something like that, Michael really didn't buy into the meltdown, which I think dispelled those meltdowns. I mean, we had kids that would be in quiet rooms for hours until they regained control of themselves. Where with Michael, those hours went down to minutes. And again, we were the type of school that we were allowed to restrain kids. And when I got there originally, they were restraining, I'm going to say on an average, maybe 5 kids a day.
Wow.
And after Michael was there for just a few weeks, we were down to not even that many a week.
Huh.
There was just no need to restrain kids anymore. I mean, yeah, you talk to them, talk them off the ledge, if you will, and get them back into the classroom where they belong. And so again, like I said, Michael really did a tremendous job. And like I said, it was a great learning curve and a great learning experience for me to see it firsthand. A lot of what Michael says in terms of energy, I've always kind of felt and kind of knew in the background, but it was never really formalized until I met Michael. And again, then over the years, Michael and I have formed a close relationship, a good friendship. But yeah, it all started back at the Hunter School 8-9 years ago. So,
what is it from your perspective you think that makes Michael such an effective teacher, especially when working with children?
It's more of like what Michael brings to the table when he meets with these kids, when he meets with the parents, and like I said, how they listen to him. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, that makes sense. And that series of conversations that he has with people just lead, probably deductively to one conclusion about how to conduct your life and how to embrace the energies as you will. So, yeah. So
Now, that being said, do you think that Michael's energy program is something that could be beneficial to all schools?
do I think the message would be beneficial to all schools? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, a quick story. We went through a certification process every couple of years. And more importantly, the last couple of years, they were coming up every year. So these are people that were coming out of the Department of Education. It was a private organization, but they were they were looking at certifying special education programs. And they came up my first year there and they read up, they did the report and blah, 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 and everything was pretty good and everything was fine. And then we start doing the energy program with Michael. And the next year they came up, one of the on-site individuals said to me, he said, man, we came up this year expecting a difference, but we were blown away. And he was referring to the kids' behavior. And he said, in 10 years from now, every school is going to be doing this. And they just noticed that much of a difference in the culture and the atmosphere of the school and the quality of the school, the calmness of the students. And again, we went from 5 restraints a day to, I'd say, ultimately only a couple, maybe a month with kids. And they were most of the new kids that hadn't had much exposure to the energy program.
A lot of these kids were medicated on pharmaceuticals, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's another really good point. Yeah, and not all, but I would say, I can go back and say, I would say all of the kids that came with medications, and again, we weren't doctors, we didn't prescribe, we didn't tell parents, hey, take your child off medications. But bit by bit, as a child was in the program, they demonstrated that they needed fewer and fewer medications. And we had some kids that got rid of all medications. And some of them were really, really heavy duty psychotropic medications for their diagnoses. And some of those kids are free of medications and left the school program. The year we shut down in 2015, all but one of our students was mainstreamed back into a public school and did very well.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And again, from my experience as an administrator, anytime you bring a new program or a new thought or a new idea into a school, you're going to have 30% of it, or your people are going to love it, 30% of your people are going to hate it, and another 30% are just going to be ambivalent. Oh yeah, whatever, you know. And at the end of all that, if you can get 60% of your people to buy in, that's not a, you know, if you're talking about a reading program, that's not a bad odd. You know, that's better than many things. But I would say when we were finally all said and done, I would say we almost had 100% buy-in from the teachers. So again, every aspect of the way we approached the kids, you know, was on that positive light. And yeah, we don't look at what you have as a handicap. We just need to find ways in which you can control and direct that in a positive way. And so, like I said, I think it made a huge difference.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Michael continues to reiterate, is that there's nothing wrong with these kids. They just happen to be very energetically sensitive, and they don't know how to deal with the energies they experience and feel as a result. So they act out, they, you know, misbehave. And
Yeah,
part of helping these kids is helping the educators, their teachers, to understand why they are acting the way they're acting, and that there's nothing wrong with them, but that, you know, they just haven't been taught how to deal with the world that we live in.
yeah, and very true. And again, I think another important thing is, you know, it's not what you say to that child that really matters. It's what you're feeling that matters, because that's kids picking it up. So you can say, you know, oh, Gary, you're having a hard day, aren't you? But in your, if what you're feeling inside is, Garrett, man, you are driving me nuts. Man, can't you be absent today? That's what the kid hears. That's what the kid hears. And that's where teachers either have to learn to, if they're feeling that way, to remove themselves from that situation, or to be able to overcome that and not just shower that youngster with more negativity. And so when we're talking about these kids, like we said, that, you know, that society doesn't necessarily understand very well, you look at these kids and they're acting out, and so many times the adults, and parents included, and teachers, all they're doing is showering more negativity on that child, even if it's subconscious. And that's just going to feed that child's negativity even more. So, you know, you have to have a different plan in mind, and I think that's what Michael brings to the table, is that different. And it doesn't involve pharmaceuticals, and it doesn't involve, you know, punishment or reward token, you know, economy, where you're going to reward the child and put a sticker on his chart for the day if he doesn't misbehave. It's really intrinsic, and that's, I think, it's another key thing. It's completely intrinsic with the kids once they understand that they're in control of their own thoughts. Yeah, my email even says, you know, most people think that we're responsible for our behavior, but that's not true. Most importantly, we're responsible for our thoughts, because it's only in that time frame can we affect any difference or any change. So I think, like I said, I think that's kind of what our approach became.
Seeing what you've learned by how Michael works, the way he impacts kids, has any of that influenced how you view or deal with your current job?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I even put together a small PowerPoint that was based on some of the things that were written down about the energy program back at the Hunter School. But again, just a very simple, really short, you know, at the end of, you know, your response, at the end of the day, you are a consequence of the decision that you've made. And it took 2 seconds to lift that makeup out of Rite Aid, and now you're spending the next 6 months with me. Was that really worth it? Is that really the decision you want to make? But again, you know, what can you learn from that? Yeah. There's a lot of underpinnings of, and not even just undertones. There's a lot of direct. This is energy. These are your, you know, you are in control of your energy field, how you present yourself to people, what you put out there, you're going to get back. You know, so what you sow, you shall reap.
And then, as Michael likes to add, then you get to wear it.
Then you get to wear it. Absolutely. So,
The main purpose of us doing these interviews is to have something that we can show, to
Mhm.
continue to gather support for the foundation, to get the word out there, the message, and give concrete examples and illustrations of how this work has impacted people in society and life, and the
Mhm.
benefits of the program and what we teach, how it works, all that kind of stuff.
Sure, and the results. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
would definitely say Michael's approach in all my years of public education, his approach far exceeded any other commercial program for discipline and getting kids to behave themselves far more than anything I've ever seen before. And I can
Mhm.
say that with 100% confidence. Like I said, 35 years in public school and 5 years as a executive director of a private school, and 5 kids of my own now, 7 grandkids. You see
Mhm.
pretty much in that time span. And
Uh-huh.
like I said, I have never seen anything work as quickly, as effective, and have as long-term results in terms of staying power once the kids get it.
Why do you
Yep.
think it is so effective?
I think because Michael makes it intrinsic. He doesn't make it an outward. Again, so many things depend upon immediate reward or immediate discipline. Oh, 3 strikes. Okay, now you have a detention. Blah blah blah. 5 smiley stickers, and we're going to give you an ice cream. Um, because the youngsters get it, and they realize that if things are messing up in their life, they're probably pretty much responsible for that. And the only one's going to turn that around is they themselves. And again, a lot of adults, I think, struggle with this because they find all the reasons why it can be somebody else's fault and everything else. And a lot of these kids come from that too. It's never my fault. It's always someone else's fault.
Mhm.
But Michael would never listen to that argument coming from a kid. He'd go right back to, what were you thinking? What are you saying? What are you doing? It's all you. Who can change that around? Once again, all you.
Uh-huh.
Uh, whole,
Yeah, that's true. I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about. Um, is there anything else that you think could be beneficial from your perspective?
yeah, I guess the only thing I would say is, I understand Michael's mission really is to not just help individuals, but to uplift the positive energy of the universe, if you will, of our
Mhm.
planet, if you will. And he chooses to do that one person at a time, and he's just really dedicated to kind of getting the word out about energies. And I think the more he does, I would have to agree with him 100%. It's going to be a much better place to live in if everyone was fully aware of their own energies and the energies that they share with the universe, and
Mhm.
how that impacts everybody.
Yeah.
Um, and so I really admire him for that, and I really think he's a wonderful human being, and wish him well in all his future endeavors.
Uh-huh.
So,
Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today.
yeah, not a problem, Gary. Good to talk to you again.
See you
Take care.
down the road.
Talk
Have
to
a
you
good one.
soon. Yeah, you as well. Bye.
Bye.